Hi, this is Jen again. Today we're going to talk about the new cooling measures that actually effected on the 30th September 2022. Okay, let's go back and see what is the new measure about. The new measure actually, first, the MAS benchmarked the rate to compute the TDSR for the residential property from 3.5% to 4%. And of course, they also benchmark for the non-residential property from 4.5% to 5%. So there is an increase of 0.5% in point, basically. And this is effected for OTP issues from 30th of September 2022 onwards. So those who got your OTP or SMP before this date, you are pretty safe. And the other one that they actually did was for the housing loan grant by the HDB, they are now going to compute the interest floor rate of 3%. Previously, they don't do that. And then on the other hand is, of course, there's a loan to value from the HDB loan from 85% to 80%. I think the massive one is the wait-up period of 15 months imposed on the private property owners and the ex-private property owners to wait out before they enter into HDB resale market. Okay, of course, I've said for those 55 age and above, they can actually buy a HDB resale immediately, but only restricted to buy from a 4-room and lower HDB resale flat. Why the cooling measure? Actually, it doesn't come as a surprise because we are expecting these cooling measures pretty soon, actually, and it comes at last. All right, so the interest rate from Federal Reserve has been increasing and very aggressively. The latest increase was 0.75%. This is because the inflation has gone up out of control. And with so many times of increase of interest rate, it did not really dampen these inflations. So that's why the Federal Reserve has actually determined to battle these inflations by increasing interest rate and is expecting to go up even further. But recession is also seeping in now. So there is also another worry that recessions will come if the interest rate keep going up. But we all know Federal Reserve now the main aim is battering interest rate. So expect the interest rate to keep going up. Until then, maybe mid of next year or third quarter of next year, the interest rate may actually soften to actually address the recession's problem. Okay, so with this increase of interest rate, the MAS, of course, the government, Singapore government, cannot actually just overlook this. So the increase of TDSR and MSR increased by 0.5%, means from 3.5% to 4% is actually a very prudent measure. Okay, this will actually prevent the investors or purchaser of the property to over leverage. As the interest rate from Federal Reserve is keep increasing, Singapore cannot keep the low interest rate here. All right, so let's do examples. How does it affect the people when purchasing? So we are taking an example. If your money income is $10,000, based on 3.5% calculations, you used to be able to loan up to 1.22 million and purchase a property of up to 1.6 million. But now increased to 4%, your loan amount has reduced down to 1.15 million. Which is a reduction of 72,000. And the targeted property price is about 1.5 million, which is almost about 100,000 reductions. So that means to say, if for purchasers used to be able to buy a small 2-bedroom plus a study for a brand new launch around 1.5, 1.6 million, or maybe slightly bigger, now you probably has to recalculate your commitments and reduce your expectations. Probably you have to dip back into the resale market to get a same size or slightly bigger with the same income. Okay, the next few measures are mainly targeting a HDB resale flat. First is actually the wait-up period of 15 months for private property owners and ex-private property owners. And of course, the loan to value for HDB loan is going to reduce from 85% to 80%. And on the other thing is, of course, there will be a new interest floor rate of 3% to be calculated if you are for your loan eligibility for HDB. Obviously, this measure is targeting mainly at the HDB resale flat, especially the bigger apartments like the 5 rooms, the executive and the jumbo flat. Mainly, this is to reduce the demand from the private property owners, downgrading, especially the en bloc seller, and competing with the HDB upgrader for this range of properties. Okay, the higher demands and the shortage of supplies has put a pressure on these prices, and that's why we see a surge of million-dollar sales for these HDB flats. Okay, according to research, there are more downgraders actually are age 55 and above. So that's why these measures actually implemented to actually curb this, but they also don't prevent this group age, like age 55 and above, to downgrade. But they can only do it immediately if they buy 4-room or lower kind of flats. If they still want to buy a bigger flat, like 5-room and above, then they still have to wait for 15 months. Okay, when I first know about this measure, the first thing comes into my mind is that, oh dear, the rental is going to go higher and probably longer. Okay, because the last video that we mentioned, rental will keep raising until maybe mid of next year, as we expected more new competing units coming to the market to increase the supplies, so to meet the demand. But with this new measure, we are expecting the demand go higher and the supply stay the same. So in that case, rental is going to expect to go higher and probably a longer period. Okay, rental market aside, let's talk about the private property prices. Okay, let's touch on the resale price. I'm going to expect the resale price to stay strong and even increase further up because of the rental now prices is expecting to go up. A lot of resale owner probably would actually withdraw from the market and rent it out instead. So expect this, the demand high, and then the low supply, prices will go up further. So for HDB resale flat, we expect it to stagnate and soften down. Okay, so now let's see what does all these new cooling measures, how would it affect the property markets? Okay, we all know that property market is based on supply and demand. We also know that the demand is very high, the supply is still very low. So this measure is only temporary, we are drawing out the demand and then but it did not increase the supply. In fact, when I see it, it actually is going to reduce the supply further. Because as the developer become more cautious, they will not go into new land sales or even en bloc sales. So that means to say the future supplies of new units in the market will going to go down further. And the demand is going to stay high, and the situation will going to come back. To wrap up this video, let's summarize how these cooling measures will affect the property market. Okay, for HDBs, when the private property owners is due to come back into the HDB resale market, we're going to see that the prices will probably push up further up. Okay, but for currently, it probably will be softened. Okay, and then for those private properties, buyer and seller out there, okay, there's a lot of mixed signal. Basically because of the high inflations and then the recession is coming in or is already in. So you will be actually temporarily contemplating whether to go in or get out of the market. Okay, but we always advocate prudent investment. So for buyers, if you are already prepared to go into the market and you think that you can afford, so you are safe to go into a right price property. Okay, for seller, basically there's no right or wrong time. It's whether you got a right or wrong reason to sell. Okay, we'd like to thank you all our viewers that actually watch our past videos. Okay, so all the examples that we put up in the videos are just a guide for you. And if you have particular questions about your situations, you can always contact us. Okay, I can't address every situation in fine details in our videos. If not, it will be very, very long videos. So with that, leave your thoughts in the comment sections below. And don't forget to subscribe to us. Click onto the bell signs and for the notifications for our future video. I'm Jen, Jen Tan Property. Always love to hear from you.